I'll go ahead and say I don't think Dolphins Cry is a bad song, and I don't think I even thought that it was a bad song at the time. It was just overplayed all to hell. It was on the radio constantly.
Right. And I mean, it's got a corny, smuggy ass fucking vibe to it. I love the song, and I'm going to defend the song.
I'm not saying it's bad. I don't like it. But I'm not saying it's a bad song.
Right. And that's going to be a theme. Episode 9, recorded September 16th, 2021. This is the Richard Wooten podcast, which I feel still very self-conscious about saying, but that's what the fuck it is. So here we are.
It's got to have a title.
You got to call it something. And I'm too non-committal to pick a topic and stick to that. So.
And I'm too non-committal to call it the Robert Rabel podcast.
Yeah, we can't. Or like Rich and Rob's Smooth Duds, or like some shit like that. Like
Zoo Crew in the morning.
Yeah.
Rich and Rob.
Can't. Not. Yeah. We're just not. We just aren't gonna. We just can't commit to that. So. So yeah, you're stuck with my bullshit. Richard Wooten. So. But yeah, man. So how are things?
Things are things. I mean, I guess. I don't know. Do you have anything besides the topic you want to touch on? First of all,
I figured we'd just riff for a second about whatever. So
yeah, I kind of wanted to bring up the Norm thing, honestly.
Please,
because that's been on my mind a lot lately. Not really so much bothering me. So Norm McDonald, comedian, passed away, age 61 from cancer, 2 days ago now. After having cancer, I forget what type it was, pancreatic or something to that effect, but for 9 years without telling virtually anybody, which is fuck.
It was pancreatic cancer?
I think so, maybe.
I don't know. I have no idea.
I don't remember, honestly.
Yeah, pancreatic cancer is like...
It's a very common one, but it's also very dangerous, so I'm thinking maybe not.
I know that it's extremely painful.
Yeah, like my sister had pancreatic cancer.
Fuck?
Yeah.
Your sister's like younger than you.
I know. She had to get like part of her stomach and shit removed.
Fuck.
Yeah, like
wow. Yeah, my great grandma died of pancreatic cancer. Bill Hicks also pancreatic cancer, I'm pretty sure.
I'm thinking it probably wasn't pancreatic. That was just the first thing that came to my head. I'm thinking it wasn't that. Yeah. So like, I don't know. I don't have a whole lot to say about it other than if you don't know Norm McDonald, like go look his shit up on YouTube. And anytime he was on like Letterman or Conan O'Brien or Weekend Update on SNL in the early 90s or anything like that, one of the funniest dudes who's ever lived. Easily, hands down, like one of the most unique comedians who's ever lived.
I mean, so I feel like I really missed out on, I'm trying to look up what fucking kind of cancer. It just says cancer.
Okay. I saw it somewhere, but yeah, I didn't.
Because he just sort of seemed to like fit in with the background of all the other 90s Saturday Night Live cast. Like he sort of just seemed to be just a consistent B-list.
Yeah.
Of those, of like the Chris Farleys and the Adam Sandlers. He was him and the Rob Schneider pulling up the...
Oh, please don't group group him with Deuce Bigelow.
I'm referring to my perception of him.
Well, no, because you watch like Billy Madison and him and was it Artie Lang, I guess, were the friends in that movie?
I think so.
Who just like lounged by the pool all day being idiots.
Right.
They were just there.
Right. And so he had these sort of recurring like bit roles in those movies. And you're like, oh yeah, there's that guy. And he only had like, I think one feeter film, which was Dirty Work.
Dirty Work, yeah.
And I remember watching me like, that's funny, but I don't think I really get it. And
it's been a while since I've watched that movie, but I used to love it, and I bet I would get it in like a different way if I watched it today.
Right, and it's
directed by Bob Saget, by the way.
Fuck.
Yeah,
of course. And so I think it was really easy for a lot of people, for him to fly under the radar because you're exposed to him and you're exposed to Weekend Update.
Yeah, and
you're like, oh well, that's what that guy does, and I don't need to, oh, that's that guy. Fine, move on. Oh, he does stand up. Okay, whatever. But you don't really like think about it, and you don't You don't understand that, oh no, there's a unique comic genius there.
The stuff that he did do so rarely bubbled up to the mainstream because it just wasn't. He never went in for that. Like he didn't want to be successful like that. He just wanted to do what he wanted to do, and what come what may. So he did SNL for like I think 5 years, and Weekend Update for 3 of those, and he became like the gold standard for that sort of thing. And everyone after that, like Colin Quinn, Seth Meyers later on, somebody else that I'm forgetting, emulated him to a certain extent, and he was like the one to look back on. But so he wasn't on SNL for too long, like compared to a lot of the bigger names from like Will Ferrell, 10 years or whatever the fuck it was. And then after that, he kind of didn't do much of anything. He was like in Billy Madison or whatever in the background, and then he did Dirty Work in like the early 2000s, I think, late 90s, somewhere along in there, and then didn't do anything for a while. He had a show on some network that did pretty poorly. I think it was like well regarded, but ratings wise, in the shitter. And then he eventually put out a couple of comedy albums, like stand-up albums, I think. And that was how I got back into him, was like in 2011 or 12, he did Me Doing Stand-Up, which is just him for like an hour in front of a small crowd. And it's some of the funniest shit I've ever heard in my life. It's incredible. And so that got me to to the point where I was hanging out with a couple of friends when I discovered that, and they were not into Norm Macdonald at all, but I put it on and we all sat there and watched it and cried laughing for like an hour.
Nice.
It's extremely good. And he, again, didn't really do too much in that time, but he was like appearing on talk shows here and there. He'd have a little bit part here and there and just do sort of, host an award show or whatever. Just kind of silently behind the scenes, always being the guy who everyone thought was the funniest dude.
I see.
That kind of thing.
So did he have like a comedian kind of rep?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Like if you look at Twitter from the past 2 days, it's just every comedian you've ever heard of going, "This was the funniest guy I've ever seen."
Right.
Like Conan O'Brien literally tweets like how devastated he was, and he was like, "I'll never laugh harder." Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
That's high praise.
Praise.
Well, and you showed me. I was over your place the other night, and you showed me a bunch of clips. It was the day he died.
Yeah.
That I happened to be over there, and you showed me a bunch of clips, and because I'm pretty ignorant, and it became very clear that one, there's just there's absolutely zero give a fuck in his because you showed me a lot of like him with David Letterman or him with Conan,
right? Exactly,
and stuff like that. And there's just he gives no fucks, whatsoever.
It's the kind of dude where like he doesn't give a shit if the whole room is laughing or if only he is laughing at the joke you just told. If no one else gets it, he'll stare at you until you laugh at the fact that he's staring at, but he's having fun,
right?
That sort of thing,
right? And he has a masterful delivery and there's almost an Andy Kaufman kind of thing.
Totally.
Which I remember I think I watched I think it was the Jim Carrey Andy Kaufman documentary.
Man on the Moon.
Yeah. And not the movie, but the documentary about Jim Carrey when he made the movie.
And how he was as he was becoming that character.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And I think that there was something, part of it is like half of it is sort of about Jim Carrey doing wacky Jim Carrey shit to be into character or whatever, but half of it is really just about Andy Kaufman and his impact and everything like that. So I watched it a few years ago when it came out. Definitely worth watching if you are interested in that sort of thing. But I think there was a line in there where they talked about Andy Kaufman and they described him. I might be totally like making this shit up, but I think that it was something along the effect of he had no respect for the medium. And it might have been, I might be cutting some things out of it, but he didn't hold the medium sacred. So there wasn't like this, like, well, I'm on a talk show, I have to take this seriously. And, we're on television, we have to treat this with respect. Like there was none of that with Andy Kaufman. And it feels like there was something similar, a similar tradition in the clips you showed me of Norm Macdonald, where he's going to use his his 7 minutes of primetime television, and 5 of those minutes he's gonna tell a joke that
like winding, meandering joke that was just a stupid, nonsensical. Well, not nonsensical, but like a meandering joke your grandpa would have told that he heard in the 1930s.
Well, and like where the joke is, like really the joke is like the joke is there's a setup and a punchline, and you could tell the joke in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Like the moth goes to a doctor and starts telling the doctor about his marital problems, and the doctor says, well, why didn't you go to a psychiatrist? And the moth says, the light was on. Like, that's the joke. That's the setup and the punchline. That's it.
Yeah.
But Norm Macdonald fills that in between there with 5 minutes.
Like the moth describing his familial issues and how he's falling out of love with his family, and his life is just deteriorating around him,
and his relationships with his sons, and
yes,
and
it's overwrought detail. It's completely unnecessary, but it's the journey, it's the dedication to it is really what makes it work.
It's the commitment that like I know where I'm going with this, and I know that the way I know that the punchline doesn't have to be funny because I'm confident enough in the way that I'm gonna get there.
Yeah.
In a sense, and
I'm gonna sit here and enjoy putting you through this.
Yeah, that's a good way.
Totally a part of it too.
That's a good way to put it. Is I'm gonna like
he's doing it to you,
yeah,
really.
Yeah.
But yeah. So the weird thing about that is like I'm not one to have celebrity deaths affect me. Like there's a whole parasocial thing that is way more prevalent these days, but we've always had it. You know, as long as we've seen celebrities that we identified with or related to or whatever, or just liked. And this no different really, but it affected me more because I could see it's like you could just see how different and special he was in terms of comedy. And it's more that, you know, various things about how he went out. That is what that is.
We've been trying to keep things in line here. We've been recording the first few minutes of this podcast to a metronome without realizing it. So
now that we've got that in the back of our heads, we won't need it anymore.
Yeah. We've set the tempo, but we're going to get a little more relaxed here. We don't like to quantize our podcasts.
Quantize our conversation.
Yeah, we like to let it breathe, man. Like let the human in.
You want some drag. You want some push and pull.
Yeah. You want some push and pull, man. Like a little bit. Like I'm a little ahead of the beat. You're a little behind the beat, but it's all going to work, man. It's a great stew of humanity. It's organic. It's what happens when musicians make music in the room together. You know,
it's real, man.
# no quantized podcast.
Anyway, though, it's not so much like there was there was an emotional reaction, but it wasn't like, oh man, I miss that person, or I'm sad now necessarily. It was more like, damn, something that was so unique is now gone.
Yeah,
that's how it felt for
me. That's sort of a good way to sort of say it. When I was trying to, as you were saying that, I was trying to think of the last sort of celebrity death that really affected me, and I think it was Neil Peart. Not because I'm a Neil Peart stan, because I'm definitely not. But I mean, as a drummer, most drummers, especially drummers my age, and sort of like probably like my age and maybe 10 to 20 years older than me,
right?
And maybe younger, I don't know, but everyone sort of goes through a rush phase, and whatnot. Anyway,
everyone worth their salt goes through a rush phase.
Because they're just so fucking unique, and like, oh, here's pop song, here's like progressive pop songs, you know, like who the fuck does that? No,
exactly.
Literally no one really before or really since.
Yeah.
In the way that they did it. But what messed me up about it is kind of different than what you're saying, because Neil, you know, they'd already like, hey, we're not touring anymore. Like you weren't really like waiting for bated breath for the next Rush record of what new shit is Neil gonna do now?
Yeah.
But Neil was always very very intentional with his lifestyle. Like he had some wine once in a while. He never he didn't have a drug dealer on the road. He had ways to ship the books that he would buy back home because he would read copious amounts of books on the road. And so I always just imagined like, okay, well, Neil doesn't want to tour anymore, but Neil is going to be this aging statesman
Right.
of the field of drumming. Like Neil, like Neil is, because he had a writing career. He wrote lots of books. I was like, yeah,
Oh, wow.
Neil is just going to be fucking writing books and is going to be around every time they do a Buddy Rich tribute, and he's going to do some interview and commentary. And that's what I have like the next 20 years of Neil being a North Star of like how to fucking do it and
Right.
keep doing it. And it's like, oh no, he had some brain cancer tumor shit and he dead.
Right.
And so it was shocking in that sense. Not so much as I wasn't as upset when Vinnie Paul died, because it was like, well, yeah, man, I don't know if I've ever seen a interview or video of that dude sober. Yeah, sure. I'm not surprised.
You're not surprised. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how hard he really lived, but that's the image they put forward, assuming that was his real lifestyle and all that sort of shit.
Right.
It's like, well, yeah, man, you probably were pushing your heart a little hard there. So, but with Neil, it was like, God damn, man, like, fuck.
Yeah.
So it was very surprising and very jarring in that sense,
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think ever since around like 2016, 2015, whenever we started to have these big waves of that generation of musicians and celebrities dying,
Right.
I've become pretty numb and become pretty aware of, like you're saying, that weird parasocial relationship.
Yeah.
And to where like, it's like, okay, like I don't need to over mourn this because that's kind of gross. Because this person didn't know me, I didn't know them, but it's, but also these are great times to celebrate their lives and the art
Totally
they created,
Like recognize what they did, but recognize what they did for you also, because even though they don't know you and you don't actually know them, there is still a connection there that you have made.
Absolutely.
That affects, you.
Right. Just because it's not reciprocal doesn't mean that it is not valid or that it's not important, and that person wasn't an inspiration or an impact or an influence or a North Star for you in a sense of
Right.
like, whatever that person might represent to you.
Yeah, exactly. That just understand that they were those things and not like a friend.
Yeah. If you mourn a celebrity's death more than you mourn your mother's death, then you're probably fucked up. Like you probably need to deal with. You probably have some shit you need to deal with.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you shouldn't celebrate the life of a celebrity when they pass. Celebrate a life of an artist.
Yeah.
Don't have to be a celebrity, but an artist.
Yeah. Like I think I can only think of really two, like talking about the past few years and how these waves have happened like that. I can only really think of two people who have really affected me, and one is Norm, that it like really made me stop and like think about that for a while, and the other was just a dude who worked on a video game website that I like a lot.
Wow, yeah.
Just like, few thousand people probably
right
knew who that was, and
that was someone who was probably really integrated into your weekly routine or monthly,
right?
Or,
it was like somebody I ended up listening to and watching multiple times per week for years,
right?
And just like smart, funny,
right.
So it's a very weird thing.
Yeah.
But I didn't like cry. I didn't like mourn necessarily. It was just an empty hole now.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
Yeah, and I guess that's going to be a unique thing that starts to happen as sort of whenever this generation of creators start to die.
Yeah.
Because this generation of content is there's so many unique creators, and so whenever that person dies, there's no one else that can do that thing.
And it's so ubiquitous. It's so people are so prolific.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you know who PewDiePie is?
I've heard that. I've heard the name, and I knew it caused some shit at some point.
He's like a shitbag, but he is like the biggest YouTuber out there.
Still?
I think so.
Wow.
Or he's
okay.
up. He's like top 3, something like that. But dude puts out like a video a day, maybe, or something like that. Like just a ridiculous amount of content, basically.
Uh-huh.
And so all the people who have that in their life for a given number of years,
Right.
eventually decades, maybe.
Right.
And as soon as that ends, that's like
There's
who has had to deal with that before now?
Right.
That way.
Right.
When it wasn't a family member.
Right. Right.
Fuck.
And that's going to be a really unique sort of sociological phenomenon, I think.
I think so. Yeah.
Because, like, okay, like, oh, well, Neil Peart died or John Bonham died. It's like, oh, the drummer in my band died. The drummer in like my favorite rock band died.
Yeah.
But that was just one of many rock bands that were doing the rock thing. Like, yeah, there's no one like Led Zeppelin. No, there's no, you know what I mean? That's, of course, but that's not as unique of content, I would say. I mean, maybe John Bonham is a bad example. But like all the actors are acting in the same fucking movies. All the YouTubers are not all on the same fucking YouTube channels. Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of cross-pollination, but you know what I mean? Like, you're not, like, they're not all going through the same film studios. They're not going through the same, like, what I'm trying to loosely say is that I think that whenever you're making content that's reaching millions and millions and millions and millions of people, like whenever you're, a Brad Pitt or a John Wayne or whatever, that it's going to just inherently be more generalized. It's going to be more sort of, you could be replaceable in a sense because what you're doing is a little more palatable to more people. But whenever your audience is like, well, these 5,000 weirdos are really into the thing that I do well that no one else can do really well.
Right.
That's just going to be a much more personal loss.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but I think a huge part of it also is just the frequency, like how often people like that are in our lives these days.
Sure,
which is just unprecedented.
I think that might be the more,
because like even with
that might be the more pressing.
Even with Neil Peart or Norm Macdonald or whoever, like
right. They're incredibly unique,
very very unique, like extremely valuable to their arts.
Mm-hmm.
In a lot of ways, and highly respected, highly beloved, but they've only done so many things that have come into your life, and
right.
maybe you saw an interview here and there.
Right, I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
like if you would get a new Rush record every 4 or 5 years, you'd go see them once every 4 or 5 years if you're a fan.
Right, exactly.
You'd see a new Norm special here or there, whatever. You're not watching this person every week or every day.
Right, exactly.
And so that's going to be a felt absence.
I think so, yeah, because that's what that was for me. Like, it instantly becomes a big hole in your routine, if not your, actual life.
Right, or your value system, or your sort of how you place value on things. If not that, just simply your routine.
Yeah, which
would be enough.
Yeah. That's why I liken it more to like losing a close family member who you lived with and see every day and have to, in that way, it's weird because it's at once closer and further than you could possibly imagine.
Right. That's I had never thought about it like that before. That's a trip.
It's weird.
That's a trip.
Yeah.
Well, we called it. Let's watch it.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, people are going to be mad when people die.
Yeah.
People are going to be upset when people die.
I hope we don't do too good a job at this here because I don't want people to,
Yeah, I please do not enjoy this content. If you do enjoy it, only enjoy it once in a while.
Yeah.
Don't enjoy it regularly.
Once a week maximum. No further. No more
Because
or less.
I don't want you to feel the loss whenever I inevitably die, or Robert inevitably dies. I don't want you to feel that.
If one of us goes, we'll have to go. We'll have to stagger it, so you can keep doing it if I go, and vice versa.
Oh, okay. So as long as we don't both die at the same time.
As long as this building doesn't explode.
Yeah, so y'all can keep watching this and listening to this as long as Robert and I both don't sometime in the future die at the same time, because I don't want any of y'all to suffer.
This is for you guys. Yeah.
So,
Exactly. Doing it for the kids.
For the kids, always, yeah. So, cool.
Yeah.
I did something this week, 2 things this week that I haven't done in almost 6 or 7 weeks, which was I practiced drums and I worked out.
Nice.
So, because my life has been a bit chaotic since my mother was in the hospital, my mother died and all that stuff. So, and like having a stupid fucking like bipolar brain is really fucking irritating, because I practiced yesterday, or I had practiced a few days ago, and then I practiced yesterday, and then I got extremely depressed afterwards. Like, I was in a good mood, and then I practiced, and then I got extremely depressed and lost the rest of the day. I was so depressed, and I was like, I'm done trying. Maybe I need to put drums down, or maybe I need to or I need to approach this instrument from a new angle, and like I need to just put all my other all the goals I had because I've been this year I've been trying to really get like my metal chops in order, and it's like, oh, I'm gonna just throw all that in the garbage. I'm not gonna play metal for like 2 months, and I'm just gonna focus on this other stuff and blah 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 blah. The whole thing.
Oh boy, yeah.
And then today I practiced, and I was like, "Oh, these blast beats sound pretty good." And I was like, "God damn it, man!" Like it's just
that's just how it be.
yeah. It's like it's so everyone. I think everyone goes through that to a certain degree. So I don't want to, like, oh well, this is bipolar shit. You know what I mean? But maybe not that severe. I don't know, but
that's the whole idea, is that there are more extremes. So.
Yeah, and that. So yeah, I went from like yesterday being like just totally depressed on the couch and like I can't do anything, blah 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 blah, to then today of like, this is gonna work out. This is gonna be fun. And so if there's any takeaway from that, it's just keep fucking practicing. just show up when you don't want to show up.
Yeah.
And it'll not every day is gonna feel good. So when you practice and whatnot, but that's it feels like I'm slowly piecing myself back together and remembering the things that I was trying to work on and accomplish before my mom went into the hospital. So I'm slowly getting there, but it's a step forward. It was like a stumbly, fucking bumbly, ungraceful step, but it was still a step.
Like a Willy Wonka walking out on the red carpet kind of step.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
it got you there though.
It did. So got me somewhere. I didn't break down my fucking, because I thought about, I'm gonna break down my metal kit and I'm gonna put it in the fucking corner, and I'm just gonna work on jazz chops for 2 months or some shit like that. Man, it's still there. You can't see it, but it's there.
See it.
So, but anyway, so I guess we'll get into what we planned on talking about.
Yeah, the topic du jour.
Yeah, the topic of the day. So,
Ed's little ponytail thing.
So when we did the second episode, or maybe the third episode, Yeah, the third one where we sort of went back into what music we were listening to, what I was calling the early agency period, when we started to choose what we wanted to listen to, not just what our parents were listening to that we caught on to,
Yeah.
what we were around, but it's like, I want to listen to this. So one of the things that I was really big into during that period was the live record Throwing Copper, because I saw them perform I Alone on Woodstock 94.
Mm-hmm.
And I fucking loved it. I bought the record at the Crosby Walmart.
Yeah.
And I listened to that record so much as a kid that my mom lied to me about how CDs worked. Because she said, if you keep listening to that, you're going to wear it out. Because she had just had enough. She didn't mind it. She's like, this is fine. But she had just had enough.
Well, she knew that threat would hold water because of how cassette tapes worked.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Oh, so
good. I guess records probably wear out too, huh? I don't have enough experience with
not
LPs.
really.
Do they not?
Not really. Well, records.
That is how they're built, I know, but
records don't age. Like they won't naturally deteriorate. Whereas CDs will.
Right, but I'm just thinking like actually the same way that cassettes do, which they
From wear and tear.
Wear and tear, yeah.
I wouldn't know.
I wouldn't either. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, CDs do have like there is disc rot. That is a thing.
Right.
So
right, like you could have, like I don't know what it is, but it also depends on the printing process that they use whether it was duplication or replication. So, but anyway, yeah, like your CDs you just burn, like that I don't know if anyone does that anymore, but when it was a thing, yeah, like the information on those might already be fucking gone.
Right.
But the ones you buy, that are mass produced, those will be there for a while, but not forever.
Yeah.
Whereas the vinyl will be there. But anyway, so in the process of that, I went back and I listened to Throwing Copper and I was like, God damn, this record is still fucking amazing. Yeah. And so it reminded me of how much I loved the band live, and I wanted to kind of like talk about them and go into some things.
So I mean, just to start, you have a whole opinion. You have a whole trunk full of opinions on live that I quite don't. But yeah, here we go. Bust out the manifesto.
So
the Kowalczyk manifesto.
What I did was I went and I listened to their entire catalog.
Which is something that I have never done until the closest I've ever come is today.
And I am sorry. I made notes as I was going through and listening to their catalog. And I made 16 pages of notes. So yeah, fuck, man, this is their career is so fucking weird. It is so fucking weird, and I'm not quite really sure how to get into it.
I agree with that statement.
Yeah, so fuck, man. Okay, so I guess maybe what I want to say is I want to first talk about Throwing Copper. And I want to talk about Distance to Here, because those are two of my favorite albums of all time. Period. I have all of them here. They're all here, okay? Just so you know.
The gang's all here.
The gang's all here. Do you hear that? Do you hear that sound? Yeah, that's the feeble clunking of physical media. So
I forgot this had the red thing. Yeah.
Back whenever people put a whole lot of fucking thought into the packaging and shit.
Yeah.
And so we have Throwing Copper and Distance to Here, and then we have the rest, which.
And then we have the peanut gallery over there.
Yeah, actually, I'm gonna put
shit pile.
I'm gonna put Secret Samadhi, and I'll put Mental Jewelry up here too, and we're gonna put these other guys here in the back. And so I guess like what I want to say is that Throwing Copper and Distance to Here. They're two of my absolute favorite records for different reasons. Throwing Copper, there was something that I related to so hard about it when I was listening to it, because, and I think that is sort of the intention that they had when they wrote the record, because they they intentionally went back to their hometown and tried to write about their experiences or write about the people in their hometown.
They're from like Virginia or something?
Pennsylvania.
Like okay.
And so in Throwing Copper, you have songs like Shit Town and like The Dam at Otter Creek. So like, and so there's all this imagery, there's all these stories and all this sort of stuff. And so I think it just really resonates, like, and there's a song, The Waitress. And so it felt like that album took scenes, both literal and metaphorical, from the life of living in a small town.
Yeah.
And so it tapped into that sort of consciousness in a certain way. And so that just meant a lot to me as a kid. I don't know. And it was aggressive, but it still had, I don't really know how to describe it, that album specifically, but it's just, every fucking note on it is good. It's still good. It holds up. I still love it.
Yeah. It's a fantastic fucking album.
And I might talk a little bit more about it in depth at some point, or in a minute. And then Distance to Here. So Secret Samadhi is a mixed fucking bag. We'll talk about that bullshit in a minute.
Yeah.
But Distance to Here, I love that album more than I love Throwing Copper. It is a very, very important, very, 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 very special album to me. And I know that not everyone feels that way. And so, but
they just haven't heard the dolphins cry.
I love that song, and I can defend that song.
You brought your thesis statement to do so.
I have them here, and so I guess what I'm really just trying to establish is that all of the shit talking that is going to ensue, this is really coming from a place of love. I am a legitimate fan of the band, and I was legitimately confused by their fifth album, but I bought it anyway.
Titled V5. Yeah, that's what I said.
Because the 5 album. And then, even as confused as I was about 5, I bought the next one, which I was underwhelmed by, but I still listened to it. I still know all the songs.
Birds of Prey.
And I still bought the next one when it came out, because I was loyal. And I know all the songs from Black Mountain as well. And that is one of the worst records ever made. I still know them all. But so I just want y'all to know that this is a place of love.
This ain't just blind hating.
Yeah, I didn't just I'm gonna pick on Ed and his ponytail. That's not where this is coming from.
No, that's not where this is coming from for you. This is where I'm coming from in this discussion.
This white discussion.
This white cult comment discussion.
So yeah, this is gonna be a little bit all over the place. But if you've ever liked anything that Live has ever done, and then were confused or disappointed by other things that they've done, this is going to be a good space for you.
Yeah.
Or if you just really don't fucking like them at all, this is probably going to also be.
Yeah.
If you are a big fan of one Ed Kowalczyk, and you're a total Ed Kowalczyk stan, and you think that he's done no wrong, this is not going to be.
You're going to have a bad time.
Yeah. So anyway, when I was it was very challenging to sort of put a playlist together for this, because it's really it's easy to put a playlist together of, hey, here's some music I really, really like. And it's really difficult to put a playlist together that sort of has it's like, okay, well, this song is important because it shows that earlier in their career they could do this thing right, and then later that they couldn't. So this song is important. This is one of my favorite songs ever written, and then this is one of the worst songs I've ever fucking heard. And to put that all together, it was very weird, and I was very concerned once I started to send it to Robert, because I was like, I can't if
So to be clear, you put together a giant mega master playlist of Live.
because I was like, because part of it was I was really torn between this idea of I need to share my pain with Robert. I need him to be burdened with what I have burdened myself with, and I need him to experience this hope and joy and betrayal and confusion.
It's been too many long years down in this hole. I need to drag someone down with me. I need to strap this boulder to someone else's leg.
And so part of it was torn by that, and then the other side of it, I was torn by my desire to maintain the friendship that I have with Robert. So I really, and so I just ended up, I made the Master Journey playlist, and then I split that playlist into two, and like, here's the good stuff and here's the bad stuff. And then I sent him my notes, and I was like, navigate this however you see fit. I'm sorry.
I'm glad you sent those two playlists so soon after, because I was in the process of breaking my phone in half over my knee, out of sheer rage. It was shaking with anger.
Yeah,
So,
if any of y'all know Robert, y'all know how angry of a person he's
furious.
He is. Yeah. If you listen to All Severed's music, that was all the rage in that music is all Robert.
I'm so mad.
He would hit me if I didn't sing angrily enough. He was the real puppet master there. So anyway, so yeah, let me toss the baton to you. So how much of this did you subject yourself to?
So I guess first of all, I can say my sort of history here, which is that I owned these three albums. I owned Mental Jewelry, the first album, Throwing Copper, the second album, and Secret Samadhi, the third album. And I really only listened to like the singles for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, why I got those albums, because I like those singles so much. And after, sort of like you said, Secret Samadhi, very mixed bag. And so once I encountered and consumed what I wanted to off of that, and experienced the stuff that I didn't really get into, that was kind of it for me with Live. And that's kind of where I stopped, of my own volition,
mm-hmm.
until today. So I went through and listened to, there are two playlists. There's the what Live did a bad, and Live did a good.
Yeah, Live, you did a bad.
There we go. And Live, you did a good. Pretty self-explanatory subject matter there. And so I went through and listened to most of the entirety of them. There were one or two places I skipped around, like things I just already had heard and knew.
Cool.
But there were one or two things that I had already heard and already knew that I listened to again, specifically like Rattlesnake on Secret Samadhi, which is, I remember being into the vibe of that song a lot back in the day and thinking this is one of the songs in this album that I like. And really digging in and listening to the lyrics today, wow, I had the wrong opinion back then. Opinions can't be wrong, but I had the wrong one.
Yeah, I'm gonna save my Rattlesnake bit.
Yeah, okay. Save that rattlesnake bite. Till later.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
so
suffice it to say that is a very, very. I think. I don't know how someone could not have that interpretation of that song of like, this is cool.
Oh, that's Zucchini's Juice.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Keep going.
Yeah. Rattlesnake is, it's a crazy. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
But yeah, anyway, that was kind of where I stopped with live, and I always liked a lot of their stuff, for the most part. But past that, oh, you're checking it out.
I am. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I do mix those two songs up often.
That's fair. I mean, a lot of the stuff on that album kind of runs together in weird ways.
It really does. Yeah.
So much like when we did the early agency playlist, a lot of that came from MTV for me.
Right.
Similarly, a lot of what I enjoyed and knew of live was from MTV and the radio also.
Right.
But it was the singles and it was the videos. The videos were a big part of MTV. Like live was all over the fucking place.
And that's something that might be another reason why I am able to be such a fan of theirs, is because I've never seen a single live music video.
That is so interesting. Oh man, because they're generally pretty good. Except when they get really weird and bad. But like it was one of those things where like MTV would pretty regularly do, I don't know, like once weekly, once daily after a certain point. They do their 90s roundup, all this bullshit, and Lightning Crashes would always be like number 4, number 3. It was fucking up there. It was a huge video.
Right.
What I didn't know until today, according to Wikipedia, is that song wasn't even released as a single in this country.
Right.
That is fucking wild.
Yeah, so I came across this YouTube video that was sort of an overview, or like whatever happened to live, and it was like a real quick, like 15-minute.
I didn't get to that either.
Hitting the high marks of it. So apparently someone synced up footage after the Oklahoma bombing.
Yes.
With that, and that was
they interspersed like sound bites of
right,
Bush, I guess, or somebody.
And so yeah, like that.
And sort of like ambulance sirens, and it's like very atmospheric, diegetic things. Like if you were at the scene, maybe you would have heard these things. I don't know.
And then there was another interesting bit in that overview where they talk about how there was a certain push with this record that they felt that like radio stations had been felt pressured to play like Operation Spirit off of the single off of the first record. And so there was a lot of pushback against the band. So they didn't, so for the second record, they focused on like college radio. And the first single was Selling the Drama, which is a very weird, there's plenty of obvious radio friendly singles on Throwing Copper, you know, like I Alone is a good one. And, you know, All Over You.
All Over You, yeah.
But they led with Selling the Drama, trying to sort of, hey, these guys are artists, right? Like this isn't just like a philosophy student reject indie REM wannabe band. This is, and so
do you associate live with REM? Do you equate them? To some extent.
I don't have a real depth of knowledge on REM, but whenever I did listen to the first record, you know, and I listened to like Pain Lies by the Riverside. That was my little note. I was like, REM vibes.
Interesting.
And so there, do you?
Not at all. Not even in the slightest.
Yeah. I don't think a lot of people do, but they were very influenced by REM, and they were very vocal about it. And so I think that I watched, because I'm going to talk so much shit about Ed. I wanted to watch an interview of him to like, okay, maybe let me hear him speak for himself, and let me see if this is going to be justified. It's totally going to be justified, y'all.
The shit talking is
going to be justified. But he talked about, as a frontman, wanting to take parts of Bono, Michael Stipe, Peter Gabriel, and a dash of Perry Farrell, and that was what he wanted his persona to be.
I think he kind of nailed it a little bit.
This is on purpose.
I mean, everything up until you said Perry Farrell, I was like, okay, I can see how you get Perry Farrell a little bit in there. Okay, I see who. Ed Kowalczyk. Okay,
yeah.
I got you.
So it's intentional, you know.
Oh man, that's so fucking weird.
So they were trying to sort of, and I think early on in their career, they were really struggling they wanted the rep of REM, but they wanted the recognition of U2 is almost sort of how it feels, because U2 would play stadiums and, and U2 had these anthems. REM didn't really have anthems, but they were different from record to, like they had a different identity on each record and all this sort of stuff, and so they were trying to be more that while still, being a U2 for the 90s.
So it was like I guess U2 kind of did that too, but it was like the musical reputation of REM.
Yes.
Okay.
Like the artistic reputation of where like other, REM, those guys are artists.
Right. Because when you said that, I was like because I guess by like the early to mid 90s, they sort of became the weird like elder statesman of like college radio from the 80s.
Yes.
Like respected and sort of,
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I got you.
And again, like the indie rock, like these threads and I'm not super comfortable. So if I say something that's like really, really out of turn or not quite right, I apologize in advance. Just call me out on it and I'll apologize explicitly.
Drop some hate in the comments there.
Please use an umbrella emoji. So you were talking about how you kind of dropped off after Secret Samadhi with your sort of experience of them.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think that is what I think that's most people's experience of live is they, maybe they heard a song off, maybe they heard like Pain Lies by the Riverside or I'll Preach for That's cool.
Because those were on the radio quite a bit.
Right.
Yeah. And
then Throwing Copper, like, this is fucking amazing. Yeah. And then they got Secret Samadhi, they're like, that was, And then they heard the single for Dolphins Cry, and they're like, I don't need that.
Pretty much.
And they were done after that. And so.
And I'll go ahead and say I don't think Dolphins Cry is a bad song, and I don't think I even thought that it was a bad song at the time. It was just overplayed all to hell. It was on the radio constantly.
Right. And I mean, it's got a corny, smuggy ass fucking vibe to it. I love the song, and I'm going to defend the song.
I'm not saying it's bad. I don't like it. But I'm not saying it's a bad song.
Right. And that's going to be a theme. Because I totally understand how people could not like the album Distance to Here. I don't expect people to like that, everyone to like that album, to love that album the way that I love that album. But I feel like the quality of it is undeniable. And that is not something you can say about their output with Ed after that album. So
I think that makes sense. Having heard what I've heard.
Yeah.
You've seen the things that we've seen.
Right. And so yeah. So as I was going through Mental Jewelry, the thing that really stuck out to me about that album. So now I'm just going to dive in, and we're going to go through all of them here.
Go for it.
And we're going to see where that fucking takes us. So I don't think that, so Mental Jewelry to me very much sounds like a band. Like it sounds like a band. Like all the songs are very unique and different. Like each song feels very different, and it really has that feel that, oh, Well, someone came into the practice room, someone came into the garage, and they had a cool guitar thing, or they had a cool drum thing, and it was like, okay, well, cool. Well, we can write a song about that. We can write a song around that cool little drum hook, or that cool little guitar hook, or that bass hook, or that it really had that feel to it. It's very organic, and you know. And so those first 3 songs on the record, Pain Lies by the Riverside, Operation Spirit, Beauty of Grey, they're very, very different. And, you know, and especially like Beauty of Grey, that is a, you know, like, that's a totally weird feel amongst what they would do later and all that sort of stuff. And then also what is really striking to me about that album is that they are so intentionally, you really feel them fighting really hard lyrically to not write about quote unquote normal stuff. Like they are really trying to write philosophical lyrics. They're really trying to write, like they're like, we're not going to write a fucking love song. It feels very much like that to me. You know, where you have songs like Beauty of the Grey, where, let me see if I can, like, this is not a black and white world. To be alive, I say the colors must swirl, and I believe that maybe today we will all get to appreciate the beauty of gray. And so the whole, like, what a weird, hard thing to even attempt to write a song about that's against duality. Is essentially what it is. Like black and white, that's not real. That's a construct. You know, there's shades to all this. And it's because he was really influenced by Krishnamurti. And talking about duality not being a thing is one of his big trips. And so yeah, like that was something that was really, really stuck out and was really moving to me. And it makes what they did later on so goddamn egregious to me. Anyway, so yeah, so that's sort of like my hot take on Mental Jewelry. It's like it's like that's a band writing music together in the fucking room, and a band really trying to write unique lyrics.
Gotcha. I think it's interesting that you think that Operation Spirit and Pain Lies on the Riverside sound very different. Those 2 songs sound similar. And I think that I might not have put those, I think I only might have put one of them on the playlist. I think you did, yeah.
Because I think it is this other song, maybe, this Brothers Unaware, that sounds really different, that I might have put on there.
Because
Yes. Because those two songs do blend together.
Yeah.
For sure. But Brothers Unaware, that one sounds very different.
Gotcha.
So, and again, like that might be like, you know, like there's all this fucking love everybody lyrics in fucking Brothers Unaware. Yeah, so many people, I know only a few. Yes, I may say that I love this man and that man, but what keeps me from loving you? Date of birth, geography, color of my skin, ideology. You got 10 fingers, 2 legs, 1 nose like me, just like me. And it's as simple as that, you see, you know, da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, I mean, yeah, there's like reductionist unity bullshit in there, but he's trying really, really hard to write a song. And he's like 20 at this time, trying really, really hard to write a song about love everybody no matter what. And that's really admirable to me for a 20-year-old.
Sure.
And
definitely.
You know, and then like the other thing, like Operation Spirit, the tyranny of tradition, you know, it's all this, like, I heard a lot of talk about Jesus, a man of love, man of strength, but what a man was 2,000 years ago means nothing to me today.
Right.
And that's really funny coming, you know, whenever 20 years later he was going to release a pseudo middle of the road praise and worship record because he became a born again Christian.
Well, a man grows, as they say.
And so this is what happens whenever whenever you get into philosophy and you stop at Krishnamurti and you don't go to college. Like, that's what fucking happens. You're like, no, I read one of them. I get all of the Easter traditions now. I read one book. I don't need to read anymore.
I haven't read a lot of the lyrics. I haven't read a lot of these lyrics at all, really. But on Mental Jewelry, do you get the sense that most of the songs are reflective of his place in, like, where he was with philosophy at the time?
Definitely. And it's been explicit. These are things he's explicitly stated in interviews.
Okay.
And he's painted a picture that sort of all of the songs kind of come from him. Like, all the songs start with him and an acoustic guitar kind of vibe. Which will come up later in their very, very messy, nasty breakup. I don't know if you read anything about that. Oh boy.
I figured you'd have a whole thing. So.
Oh man, it's gross. Just a Herculean case of lead singer disease that Ed came down with.
Oof.
But yeah, so the thing that strikes me so much about Mental Jewelry is it's trying it's very much in this band vibe, and it's like, hey, we're working really, really hard to not write stock ass songs, you know, and that's very admirable.
Sure.
To me, you know what I mean? So, and then Throwing Copper, which is one of the greatest records ever made, as far as I'm concerned. Some things I wanted to throw out there. So if you listen to The Dam at Otter Creek, the first track on the record. So one of the things that makes Live an amazing band is Chad fucking Gracie on the drums, because I don't know if anyone plays that aggressively within the song as well as he does. He's like Dave Grohl, but in just a band that's less cool. I think that, like, his drumming on these records is that good to me. And so,
cool.
But there is it's around the 3:45 mark on that song, okay? And because it's like doing this like that kind of thing, and he just goes and does straight eighth notes on a fucking China cymbal. Like, this is like, you listen to it and it takes the song and it just takes it like into the fucking next level of fucking intensity, right? Go listen to that 3:45 on Dam at Otter Creek. And I can just imagine him fucking having to fight to keep that in there.
Yeah.
You know, because that is, and I don't know. That's what I fucking imagine happening, because there's just no way that you would have been able in the musical climate that was alt rock or whatever, just even 5 years later, maybe even 2, you would not have been able to get away with doing that as a drummer. You certainly would not have been able to get away with using a China cymbal at fucking all in the fucking 2000s, you know, in the late 90s and the 2000s in the fucking modern rock studio scene. Like, I'm serious. They would take you, like, if you went into a session, like, you would like take that down.
Ross Robinson would come in and throw that shit across the room.
He wasn't making singles, you know. I mean, y'all want a single? You say fuck that, right? Sorry. Ross Robinson didn't produce that Korn record. You can't blame him for that one.
Yeah.
But so, and I mean, in that aggression, that sort of soulful aggression that Chad Gracie is able to push through the drums carries on through Distance to Here. It's not really there so much after that until you get to the record they did without Ed in 2014. But yeah, like, you know, and again, I guess maybe it's selling. Yeah, it was selling the drama that was on the Woodstock 94. Yeah. And so go watch that footage, because Chad Gracie, when he gets to the chorus, his elbows like above his fucking ear, you know, while he's fucking whipping the shit out of the floor tom. Like, he looks like he's got like a backwards baseball cap. He looks like he got lost. Like, he looks like he's a baseball player that got lost, and he was like, well, I guess I'll just hit these fucking drums. You know, it's so physical, but so musical at the same time. And so yeah. And then another one I want to sort of point out, another few I wanted to point out on that album is a so the song Stage, and so that is like sort of a meta song a little bit. It feels like a little bit of a meta song because, or maybe he's talking about another rock star in fucking that small ass Pennsylvania town. But this song, there's a sort of a groundedness to it and how he's referring to never wanting to give up the stage and this relationship sort of failing, maybe not failing because of someone going to be a rock star kind of thing. And there's a sort of grounded humility to this that is very different than some of the lyrics on 5.
Yeah.
And that you're going to that we're going to talk about. So,
right.
And then in the song Pillar of David's Son, there is some Christian imagery there too, but it's not crazy explicit. It's sort of subjective, you know? And cause there's totally really, there's ways to do that without being so blatant and over the head with it. And I feel like that song's a good example of that. I also read somewhere talking about his lyrical writing process, and that he said that the way that he writes lyrics was, now this is what someone else said. Someone else had heard this in an interview, so I don't have like a direct source of this. Was that, you know, like, and I mean, lots of people do this. Like they have the chords, they have the song, and they just start like mumbling. They start mumbling nonsense.
Right.
And
you just get like you get sort of a rough framework for how you want to sing thing, and you fill in words.
Right.
Later.
Right. And that's kind of his approach, and that he doesn't like to pin his songs down, pin the meaning of his songs down. He likes to let people find their own meaning in them and this kind of shit. Right.
Right.
And so, but I've also heard him say in the interview that I watched that he talks so much. He does reference him spending a lot of time to get the lyrics just right. So this is not the sort of, I heard someone once describe Anthony Kiedis' lyrics as sort of Californication onward, as if he wrote them on like a restaurant napkin and never edited them.
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah, me too. And I'm like, I dig it. But that works for their style, because that really, Red Hot Chili Pepper lyrics, Californication forward, do really feel like abstract stream of conscious imagery. Yes. And it works on that level. It's not flipping back and forth. You know what I mean? And so Ed talked about, so he might have had some random shit fall out of his mouth, but he can't pass the buck on this. Okay. He has to take responsibility for these lyrics that are fixing to come up on Secret Samadhi. So yeah. So anyway, yeah. So next.
Well, one more thing before that is because this is easily the album that I had the most
yes, please.
Experience with and love for. Also, just throwing cover, like you said, amazing album.
It's so fucking good. It's really unique too.
It really is. And like this early live stuff, to me, there's like no other band that was doing it like that, and kind of no other band that did that since then. Maybe there was a reason behind that. I don't know. But the videos were a big part of this for me. And the video for, if you've never seen them, I guess it's really interesting. Like the video for I Alone is the band in like sort of a white, empty studio space with like a couple of background elements. Like they started to set up a play set, like a set for a play.
Mm-hmm.
A theater play, and then didn't finish it. Like there's like an old rotten tree behind them, and that's kind of it. And it's damn near a single camera affair.
Yeah,
with just a camera, and the video starts, and Ed is in the camera right here, and he's squeezing his face, and the whole rest of the video is just Ed getting up in the camera, and then getting back, and the whole band's playing, and then it's almost a static shot the entire time. It's really fucking weird. Videos are not like that. And every once in a while, there'll be like a close-up of somebody playing something or whatever. And There's no drums because they would need a drum set, and so the drummer's just kind of like walking around dancing with Ed, kind of singing a little bit too. He's got a candle at some point. He's like looking creepy. It's a fucking strange video, and Ed's got his little ponytail thing and it's whipping around. He's jumping around and shit. Very strange. Anyway, it's a good video.
Yeah.
Really weird. Lightning crashes. One of the most famous videos. Period. I think, especially from the 90s.
I've never seen it.
It's a beautiful video. It's actually a really beautiful video. Beautifully shot. It was 1994.
That sounds right.
And I think it came out the same year. But it's filmed in this old house, apparently in like LA. But it looks like an old turn of the century, like just wood old fucking house. And thematically, the song is about like, life transference from death to like a new life. But because of the video, a lot of people think that it's about a woman giving birth and her dying in childbirth.
Right.
And that is not what it's about.
Right.
But the video has this explicit imagery that sort of lends itself to that.
Sure.
But they use these effects in the video where it's like the band is kind of superimposed over the place that they're in, which is just really cool, like ghosty effect. And they're like people standing around and they're not really there, and stuff happens, and they're like books, and it's a fucking beautiful video, really.
Yeah.
This video was directed by Jake Scott, who is Ridley Scott's son.
Okay.
Who just did like a shitload of really good videos.
Okay.
Just a strange fact.
That is.
I don't know. Yeah. I can't remember the video for Selling the Drama. I think there was one. But those two specifically really stand out. Yeah. Cool video. Go watch it sometime.
Yeah.
Lightning crashes specifically. But
and so I think that sort of is a very important element as to, I think, the average person's perception of the band live, that they were pushed really hard on MTV.
They really were.
And so everyone knew them. And so whenever you're a band that's pushed that hard, it fucks with your credibility a bit. And so I think that once they, it was only going to take one misstep and they were going to lose everyone, because a band, it's like why it was so much fun to hate on Nickelback for so long, because they were pushed. So, everyone, whether you wanted to or not, you were going to hear the new Nickelback song.
Everyone looked at that photograph.
Every fucking one. Yeah. And so you saying that about Tony Scott reminded me of something interesting I wanted to bring up. So there's something that all of, in my opinion, the live records that have undeniably good quality to them, there's something they all have in common. And that is that they were, and so that it's only 4 records, 4 of their entire career.
Which ones?
Mental Jewelry, Throwing Copper, Distance to Here, and The Turn, the one they did in 2014 without Ed. What they all have in common is that they were all produced by Jerry Harrison. Jerry Harrison was in the band The Talking Heads. He did not produce Secret Samadhi, for whatever reason.
Which we have now arrived at.
So I found out something very interesting about Secret Samadhi. Maybe because he was working with the Verve Pipe for Villains.
Villains, yeah.
Whenever around the time that he would have needed to fly to Jamaica, where they wrote and recorded the album.
Huh.
So
it didn't really come through. I'm gonna say.
So I was watching this fucking interview from Ed. It's like a 30-minute interview from 2004. This was on the Awake DVD, which is a live DVD they put out, which I own. And I was watching this interview, and some things that struck me. There were several things, and I'm going to go back and forth between this interview and some things that struck me as weird, but speaking specifically to the making of this record. So he's sort of talking about this time period as like we were just a bunch of kids, like just caught up, we were just ecstatic in the music, and we would just sort of pick our heads up once in a while and notice that we were on the cover of magazines and that we were this and that we were like sort of acting like they were just a bunch of kids and like just sort of like unaware of this. But you recorded an album in fucking Jamaica. Like you booked a flight, you rented a house in another fucking country on the island to go. Like that's a lot of fucking money, dude. That's a lot. And that's not like, that would be plenty of money right now to do that shit in like 1995 to get studio equipment to fucking Jamaica. Anyway, not that there wasn't studio equipment in Jamaica. I'm just, the equipment you needed to make a record took up a lot more space. So moving it from place to place was going to be more expensive and take up more space. I'm not like, Jamaica has a very long and rich musical history, of course. That's not the thing I'm trying to say.
We're not saying that Live built Jamaica's musical industry. We're not saying that
they were nothing before Secret Samadhi.
We're not saying that Dub spawned from Ed Kowalczyk.
And it's like dub, right? That's not where it came from? Shit.
Well, shit, man. Convincing argument, honestly.
Son of a bitch. So there's this really weird, and then in another interview, the guitarist talked about how that, that Throwing Copper was a record about, referencing them, how they grew up and who they were. And that by the time they got to Secret Samadhi, they were different people, and they almost couldn't relate to the people that wrote Throwing Copper, because the people who wrote Secret Samadhi were people who had toured all over the world and played in front of hundreds of thousands of people and da-da-da-da-da. So it was really like the way it reads to me is just peak arrogance. Just, and I mean, maybe it didn't mean to come off that way, or wasn't intended to come off that way, but we're not talking like 10 years in between these records. Like
literally 2 years.
It's like 2.
And this is literally the exact opposite of what Ed just got done saying. Mm-hmm. By the way.
Right. And there's just a smugness, like, cause I'm gonna quote things that Ed says and things like that. And there's a smugness about the way that he speaks that I cannot replicate. I'd have to really work on it. It's a real special thing.
Were these like audio interviews you listen to, or do you just read these?
It's a video
Oh,
interview.
Even better. Okay, I'll
video
find
interview.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, all right. So Secret Samadhi, the record. So the vibe on this. So here's like my notes about it. I'm like, Secret Samadhi, Rattlesnake. And I'm already a fan of the song. I already know the song. I already like it. And I'm like, all right. Word salad from the beginning. What the fuck is going on in this verse? Chorus is great, and the music overall rips. But the verse of this fucking song, right? It's garbage. It's word salad.
So I remember whenever I first heard the song, whenever I kind of liked this song back in the day, I just remember regarding it as sort of Live deciding to be goofy for a little bit.
That's how they talk about it. A little bit. They talk about like it was, we really went out there and it was really weird. And it's, we write this angry, dark record, even though we're in Jamaica and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. But having experienced some of the later stuff, that cannot be true. It is a turning point, if anything.
So I have a theory about this song.
Okay.
So my theory is that whereas on Throwing Copper and there's all this romanticizing, not romanticizing, but there's a very grounded, empathetic, maybe somewhat condescending at times.
Sure.
look at at the place you grew up in. But never intentionally condescending, never angry. It's like waitress is like, come on, baby, leave some change behind. She was a bitch. I don't care. She wore a funky beret in her hair. She brought our food out on time. Everybody deserves some change. Everybody's worth some fucking change, I feel like this song is simplistic lyrically on purpose because I think that it's a meta way of him trying to talk about how people who do these things are themselves simplistic.
I could see that.
And I think that this is an angry song about living in a small town. And so
okay. I can actually see that.
Like, let's go hang out in a mall or a morgue, a smorgasbord, because that rhymes with morgue. Let's go hang out in a church. We'll go find Lurch. That doesn't even make sense.
That's exactly. I got through that first verse earlier, and it really just dawned on me again. Like, I kind of viewed this back in the day as them just kind of being flippant and irreverent.
Yes.
But also, it doesn't make none of it makes any sense.
It doesn't really hold water.
It doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't do anything.
Right. And
like, why even record the song if you're gonna do that?
Right. Is it money? Is it fame? What's in a name? Shame. Is it money? Is it fame? Or were they always this lame? That's exactly, you know what I mean? Like and so this is someone who is talking about not being able to relate to the fucking peons of his town. And then being mad at them. And crazy mixed up town. It's literally right there.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's the rattlesnake I fear. And
in another place and another time.
I'd be driving trucks, my dear. I'd be skinning hunted deer. So if we take these lyrics for what they're worth and not just write them off as word salad, then, you talk about fearing the rattlesnake. You're saying these people are superstitious. That could be the thing you're trying to connect there. You're trying to sort of, in another place and another time, say like, oh, well, I would still be here. I would be one of you. And what would I be doing? I would be driving trucks because I'm that lame. If I'm here, I would be lame enough to be driving trucks. Because if you drive trucks for a living, you're clearly not a sophisticated person or whatever. You're less valuable as a human if you drive trucks.
Yeah, it feels like that's what he's getting at.
Or if you fucking hunt deer. And the reason this makes me mad is because there's a part of me in another place at another time that would have written this exact kind of fucking song. And that's really why I'm so mad at Ed, because because I fell for it. Like, I fall for all the fucking philosophy student, love everybody, like just shallow Eastern mysticism bullshit. I fell for all of it. I love all that shit. This
is literally the meme of you being personally attacked.
Yes,
is what this
is. Yeah. And so I am. That's why I am gonna fuck you up, Ed. And so, but yeah, like casting yourself as this enlightened outsider, criticizing basic people and their perceptions, but meanwhile, it's so crazy because meanwhile, what does he do later on? He goes down this path of making some of the most generic, contrived fucking music that has ever been made. Anyway.
What does go find Lurch mean? What the fuck does that mean, Ed?
Like, are you trying to say like you're gonna go like watch some? You're gonna
watch
go watch
the Munsters?
Right, you're gonna go. That has to. If it means anything, that has to be what it means. We're gonna go watch some syndicate. Are we gonna go hang out in a church, or are we gonna go watch Nick at Night? Like that, because we're losers and we don't have anything else to fucking do.
Guess. That's what I called it. I called it finding Lurch when I was gonna go watch TV with my friends.
I mean, but only if you were hanging out at a church first.
True. You guys want to go find Lurch, man?
Yeah. Oh, dude, man.
We can haul ass down through the alley. You know what I'm saying?
I'd rather go find Maxwell Smart. Is that his name? In Get Smart?
Yeah. What's it? I can't think. Don. He did the voice of Inspector Gadget also.
Oh, I don't know that.
What's that, Chief? You where?
Didn't know that.
I'll be right there.
And then Lucchini's Juice is fucking amazing. That song's still fucking great. I don't know. Did that one hit you different?
That one hit me about the same. The video was way fucking creepier than I remember it being. It's fucking funny. So again, this video, this album was around the time when they were all over MTV, and I
Right. And
watched,
Lakini's Juice was the single. Was the first single.
that was the lead single, and then Freaks, and then whatever this other one is.
Probably Turn My Head.
Turn My Head. There you go. But Lakini's Juice, like, it's hilarious. It's hilarious to me. I have this very vivid memory of, there was a while where I was going to my grandma's house sometimes in the morning for some reason before school or some shit, and I would put it on MTV and just watch it because they would play videos early in the morning. Mm-hmm. And this video, I remember very specifically one day this video came on, and I don't know why I have that memory, but I do. I was just like, yeah, one day I watched the Lakini's Juice video at my grandparents' house. That's weird, and everyone was there watching it with me.
It's a family affair.
They were eating breakfast, and I was just sitting there watching it, and they could see the TV, but it was loud because I had it on and shit, I was like, okay, that's a weird memory to have. And then I went back and watched it today for like the first time in 20 years, and it's basically just people dry humping each other like on a fake porn set and live playing. And I did not remember that being the case, to the point where I had to go look and see, like, was this like the unedited version of the video? But no, there are very specific shots from the video that I remember very vividly. No, that's just a weird goddamn thing. But all these videos from this album are the most 90s video, the most late 90s video, because the videos from Thorium Copper are the most early 90s videos you can imagine. Okay. The videos from this album are all extremely saturated, like color grade wise. They're all very bright, vibrant colors, like overly, like disgustingly so in a way. A lot of like jittery shots like this, and a lot of like quick zooms and you know what I mean?
Oh fuck, you're right. That is a late 90s thing.
Absolutely. A lot of like out of focus shit all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And just like zooms on the side of somebody's face or whatever. It's nothing but that. Is this video.
Fucking David Fincher has entered the chat.
Totally. Man, I watched Gone Girl last night for the first time.
It's a great movie.
It's a pretty fucking good movie.
It's a good movie. That
fucked up movie.
that movie, because Allison read the book. I don't know if she read the book first or saw the movie first or whatever, but she read the book and she was just mad.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And she watched the movie and she was just as mad. And then a few years later, she was like, I want you to watch this movie with me so I'm not mad by myself. And she wasn't mad because she thought it was a bad movie. She was mad because of
the subject matter.
Right.
The things that happen in the movie that are super fucked up.
I thought it was brilliant. I love the questions that it forces you to ask, and all those things.
Yeah, and it's a David Fincher movie, so it's gonna be really well made. Mm-hmm. So anyway, yeah. Lakini's Juice is still a solid song.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah. There's a little. I think there's a little bit of the thing that's like really great from that, and because this was a songwriting trope. Maybe not a trope, but a songwriting device that I really notice whenever people do it, and I really, really like it, is whenever your song structure is, maybe intro, verse, pre-chorus. Not yet.
Little tease of a build-up, but then we go back into the first thing again.
Right.
Yeah, really effective here.
And in this one, oh man, when it hits, oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Speaking of devices,
love it.
There is a device at the end of this song, in the final chorus, final verse of the song, that they straight up reuse in Freaks that I did not realize until today.
What's that?
I didn't expect you to ask me that.
Oh,
because I thought we were gonna start talking about Freaks maybe in a minute, but in the final verse of both songs, it is Ed singing the line and then him like whispering an echo of the line, and they do the same thing in both songs. Exactly the same thing.
Hey Ed, yeah. Jerry's not here to give us any good ideas and direction. Why don't we just do that thing we did again?
Pretty much.
Yeah, Jerry's not here to stop us.
I mean, it works, so why not? But I listened to those two in a row earlier, and I was like, oh, they just did the same fucking thing again.
Right, and I listened to the album as it is, so it didn't connect to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think there's a little. It gets a little word salady at some point, but overall, it's fine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Century.
Oh boy.
These lyrics are gross. What the
Oh,
fuck, Ed?
Boy, dude.
is what I wrote down.
I didn't remember this song at all, but
I can smell your armpits. You're still here, my dear. This puke smells like beer. I got nothing as to what this is
just
about.
what the fuck?
Yeah, it's just I mean, I guess so because we've written songs, or you've been a part of songs where I wrote lyrics where I would write down a lyric and it was like, okay, this might be too far. I'm not sure if I should do this, and we decided to do it. And I don't know that I'm necessarily proud of those when I look back. Like I'm proud of the, I'm talking about the song Again off of Only Killers, and I'm extremely proud of that song as a whole. There's a line in the chorus that I'm like, it feels a little cringy when I listen to it today.
Sure.
And all I'm really just saying is that if I try to like give Ed a little bit of grace and like this being in this headspace of writing something and feeling that resistance that, oh, maybe I shouldn't this feels too gross, or this feels too this or too this, and being like, no, fuck it, here we go, I'm committing to this process. Like there is something to be said about that.
Yeah.
But man, it has to fucking mean something, right?
You would hope so. You would think so.
Because if you're gonna take that artistic risk, like I'm gonna go way out here, and I'm gonna say something that is gross or upsetting or really graphic. It better come. You know what I mean? Like you better
be trying to say something.
Yeah, like there better be a payoff. That's what it is. If you're asking the audience to come along with you on this gross ass imagery, there should be a payoff of some type.
Yeah.
And of intensity, of a meaning of something, or of something, or even it doesn't, maybe not even meaning, but just clever. Like a clever turn of phrase or whatever.
Payoff is the right. Yeah.
Or maybe the whole point is to make you uncomfortable. So then maybe the whole song should be making you uncomfortable. I don't know, but that's not what's happening here.
No.
But like, and it's funny because as I would write these notes, it's sort of like these layers of, I would come across something dumb, and then I would try to reflect on like, okay, well, what is a good live song? And why is this?
What makes one?
Yeah. And why is this one not it? And so, it's like, so you need kind of a out there vibe, and that can be something weird. Like on Mental Jewelry, there's weird vibe, like the song about Beauty of the Gray or whatever, or the stuff on Selling the Drama, or this other stuff on Throwing Copper, or it could be the kind of like there's just got to be something musically that feels a little off about it. You can't just have here's the chord progression and some layers of some other stock shit. You can't, that can't be it. There has to be something weird there. You need to have weird lyrics about weird shit, but the trick is that they don't stand out too much. And so you can use weird imagery, you can use all those types of things, but if it makes you go, huh? Like if it stops, like if you're like, did he say armpits?
Yeah.
It pulls you out of the hypnosis that is the goofy post-grunge live stew, and aggressive drums and rhythm guitar. Like it's a goddamn band. You have to have hooks other than the fucking vocals, which they would not do later in their career. So, and yeah, all right. And then there was a few other things that I wanted to say. Unscathed. I'm like, this is pretty great. And then it's like, oh, and now the lyrics are making it weird. Because I really like the way this song started off, and then Ed went to make it weird, had to fucking make it weird. So the song, oh no, it's not Unscathed, it's called Unsheathed. And so, Free love is a word I can't linger too long in. Free love, in quotes, was just another party for the hippies to ruin. Free love is a knife through the jugular vein, son. Free love. I can't afford to add up what you fuckers are made of.
Huh?
That's...
What?
It's a really strange topic to write a very angry song about.
Right, like extremely strong feelings about
free love. Now, there's plenty of criticism to give to the hippie movement.
Sure.
And the concepts of free love in itself, or you know, the double-edged sword of, you know, of free love, whatever that means.
Yeah, maybe, but Ed Kowalczyk wasn't around for that, and he certainly didn't have strong enough feelings for it to be a fucking knife in his jugular or whatever the fuck.
Right, because that's very violent.
What?
That's very violent, and the delivery is
listen,
very angry.
I maybe the free love movement was a lot of things, you know, in the late 60s, early 70s. I severely doubt to 99% of people who it affected negatively that it was a jugular, that is a knife in the jugular, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, and just another party for the hippies to ruin. There's things to criticize that era of hippies of, you know, as a whole, but I don't think that their negative legacy is free love. And so what I think is really interesting about this, so I'm sorry, but I'm just going to give y'all the raw stream of consciousness, angry shit that I had whenever I like spit this out. It was like, I swear to Jesus, Ed is like an angry spiritual nerd that isn't getting laid, like a pseudo spiritual incel with a knack for melody. Like there's a clear moral compass in the lyrics that is conservative and in a utilitarian fucking everything is love sort of way, but it's still conservative. And so this is a thread I would only see knowing where he would end up. And then it's also really strange, and this is gonna, because in the interview that I saw of him, he mentions girls and girls liking their music, and the reason that they took their shirts off for the Pain Buys, or the Operation Spirit video, or the Pain Buys, one of those videos, the reason they took their shirts off when they're dancing in front of the fire is because the director had the cute camera girl come and tell them they should take their shirts off. And, oh, she's pretty cute. Yeah, we'll take our shirts off, sweetie.
I Alone video as well.
Great.
Yeah.
And so, but he talks about, like, you know, we've always had a great relationship with our female fans. The fact that we're loud doesn't bother the ladies. He mentions chicks and girls a lot more than you would expect. And so I'm not really like, I obviously don't have a problem with someone singing sexual lyrics and whatnot, but I think that there's a weird conflict of imagery with live, of trying to like spiritual, all is love, sensual love, you know, dolphins cry, I want to dance with you in the jaws of Kali Yuga kind of shit, you know, mixed with free love is a knife in the fucking jugular, mixed with born again Christian. There's some weird shit in there. There's some weird stuff going on. And then I've also seen people talk about, like, I mean, again, this is total anecdote, what I'm about to say. People talking about like meeting Ed, you know, like, or meeting the band, like, oh, the rest of the band's really cool guys. Except for Ed. He was only interested when girls were around, you know, and so
I'll just say, so far, not having gone into this Ed rabbit hole that you have unfortunately had to drag yourself into and back out of, it sounds to me like what has happened with Ed during this time, up until this time, is that does he have like a degree in philosophy?
No.
Just it's like hobbyist, essentially?
They decided to focus on the band and make this album instead of going to college.
Okay, that was probably a mistake. It sounds like Ed sounds like somebody who got way self-importantly into philosophy to the point where it became like his personality, but only to a point, superficially maybe, and then the rest of the time he was just a 20-year-old dude,
Right.
like a billion other dudes I've known.
Right.
But only he was able to write songs that millions of people would listen to.
Right. And so this is it's an unfortunate double-edged sword, because if Ed was just some dude I knew, I wouldn't he would not get this level of criticism.
Right. He wouldn't have scrutiny on him. Yeah.
Because I know literally a dozen guys that have tried to pick up girls by being, spiritual and whatnot.
Right.
I've seen lots of things of like that kind of community being involved in really, being involved a lot in improvised music and a lot of that sort of stuff.
Sure.
I don't mean improvised in like jazz sense. I mean a different like jam band kind of sense.
Yeah.
Or avant-garde stuff. Anyway, whatever. But yeah, I think you're right. Like it was just a fucking 22-year-old rock star. But I think part of the, anyway, but it's like, but why are you mad at free love? You're a fucking rock star. I thought that's what you wanted.
That's the biggest curveball so far. Like, what the fuck?
And I guess like if I'm trying to be, speculative, as I'm like, see, there it is, right? There's your true conservative core that's going to shine out, come up later. Anyway, Turn My Head. I still like this song. Strings are kind of lame, but honestly, the bar's real low for this album. So
yeah,
if you give me a little bit of lame strings, it's a decent song, I'll take it.
This was another one that I was very familiar with, and I went back to it, and I was like, this is fine. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. But then that's a really good example, I think, of the two viewpoints that we have, is that Turn My Head. I think that might be a nice turning point, if you will, because I love that song. I still love that song, and you're like, meh. So I'm just trying to convince y'all that I'm a legit fan of the band here.
Absolutely.
Don't doubt. Don't doubt me here. And then Herope, whatever that fucking weird ass song, he's like yelling, "They called you queer." I don't know why he's yelling this at the end.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
It's so
Hero
strange.
Psycho Dreamer. Which is all one word, by the way.
Yeah, I don't know what you're yelling about. Freaks is a really weird, but it's a very engaging track. I think this is still a great track.
Yeah, agreed. This was another one that I was way into at the time. Also because they had video, but it was a single. It is just kind of a weird, almost a story this time, in a weird way.
Right.
The video is very cool though. It is it's some relatively known British actor. He's like an older dude who's like the star of the video. It takes place in sort of like this fancy modern retro future sort of bar setting.
Mm-hmm.
But all they serve is milk, it looks like.
Okay.
Everything on the bars is milk, sort of. And the dude goes in, he's like ordering his coffee and shit, and he looks around, everyone's kind of weird, and everyone's drinking this milk, and he's like, what the fuck? He just wants his black coffee. And the dude tries to like add the milk to the coffee, and he's like, nah, man, I'm good. And somebody sees it, and he's like, let's go fuck this dude up, or whatever. And so they have a plan to like make him spill coffee on some other dude and get in a fight and all this shit. And then he's like, what's going on? I just wanted my fucking coffee. And then he turns around and everyone's kind of staring at him. He feels kind of weird. He's like, oh shit. And then they all converge on him, and then they make him drink the milk. Okay. And that's the end of the video, is just him with milk all over his face as a famous British actor who's like disgraced in this stupid live music video. Which it's fun to watch. And
90s.
Yeah, but the whole time also Live is on the stage of the bar,
okay,
playing the song.
Mm-hmm.
And the band is sort of like doing like a weird sort of bandy sort of thing. They look like a house band,
like a big band,
sort of.
Okay,
in a way. But Ed is being like full on Ed, weirdo Ed.
Yeah, and
he's like making these weird bug-eyed faces and all this shit and doing all this slinky shit. And in the part of the song where he goes, "You little fucker," the shot is like of the dude's face, the main character's face from the side, and Ed pops in the frame behind him and yells it at his back of his head, and then pops back out, and the guy's like, "What was that?" Oh, weird. I didn't hear anything.
Uh-huh.
It's just this weird thing.
Yeah.
Ed is so weird in this video, and in all the videos, really. But yeah, so that's whenever I think of the songs that have videos with them, they're very strongly associated because they were very strong videos in a lot of ways.
Right. Yeah. There were definitely, again, which is totally incongruous
Eh.
with the music that they would make later. Because all these videos are like, yeah, y'all are making fucking art. Y'all are making decisions. And then like, Sophia, I need you like a junkie needs a vein is where we were going to end up. Fuck you, Ed.
We'll get there.
So, but yeah, I think I was looking up the lyrics of Freak because I was like, let me see what people have to say, like in a forum kind of setting about what the meanings.
Or like on Genius or something.
Yeah. And that was whenever I found like someone talking about like the subconscious, you know, I let the lyrics come from my subconscious and I won't discuss the meaning of them. People should be able to find their own meaning, something like that. And my experience when I read that was my eyes rolled out of my asshole. Like, way to not take ownership. Fucking, it just came from my subconscious. You should try to figure it out. Armpits smell like beer.
I'm not supposed to be able to tell you. You're supposed to be able to tell it yourself, man.
Yeah. And again, you know.
Which, like, whatever. Fine point, but also fuck you, Ed.
Yeah, fuck you, Ed. Yeah. And so, and then I just wrote another thing like, man, Chad Gracie's a great drummer.
Fair.
So.
Also, something we haven't really talked about much. You talked about Chad a little bit. The band, musically, I don't have a bad thing to say about them.
They're great.
They're totally a solid band.
They're a really great band.
Like, they don't do anything that I particularly love at any given time, but they're totally solid.
Yeah, like, there's not a lot of, say, riffs, but there's really great texture and there's a really great vibe that they have that is very, very unique that I don't think anyone else quite has.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's the first casualty. is those three guys. That's the first casualty. Is their involvement, I think, in the songwriting.
That is collateral damage, I'm gonna say.
Yeah. So my biggest memory of this record, because I didn't buy this record when it came out, because Jeremy bought this record.
Okay.
And Jeremy was offended by how bad this record was. He was confused.
I can totally see that.
He was upset. He was like, beer? My dear? My dear? He was upset that, because Jeremy didn't, like, a lot of Jeremy's music would come from me. Like, I would buy things and I would burn or I would make cassette tapes because for whatever reason, I was able to get a hold of a lot more music than most people in high school, because my mom bought me more shit than she should have. And so
I feel like Jeremy wasn't one to buy a lot of albums.
He didn't. Okay. He didn't, because his parents wouldn't pay for them. And so, but he bought this one, man, because he fucking loved Throwing Copper. And he was like, I love this band. Okay. I'm going to buy the new live. Like, he was excited to buy it.
Oh, man, that's sad.
I feel like this is Jeremy's origin story. I feel like this.
That day, something snapped.
Yeah, this is...
Beer?
This is his Tony Stark betrayed me.
Oh, fuck.
You know, like, this is his Iron Man villain moment.
He walked away from this album with a huge scar on his face.
Right. Oh, Tony wouldn't listen to my idea. So I skipped. I was like, well, man, all right, I trust you, Jeremy. And so I didn't listen to this.
Wow.
I didn't listen to it at all. So I went right from Throwing Copper to Distance to Here.
Okay.
And there was something also really synchronous about this album, about when it came out and when I listened to it. Oh, before I do that, so there's another crazy thing I wrote down for Secret Samadhi, and I wrote down that Secret Samadhi is the skeleton key to the toxicity that is live.
I saw that, and I was like, well, he's gonna say some shit about this,
and I was like, wow, I don't know if that's true or not, but that sounds nice.
But I liked writing it.
But but I guess like it was surprising to me to go back and listen to Secret Samadhi, and because I always, that's just a weird record that I don't particularly like as much. I wasn't expecting to find I wasn't expecting to find what the fuck moments in it. I just thought it was going to be like, oh, okay, all right, those are just, because I'll give a lot of forgiveness for a band that's reaching for something and misses the mark.
Yeah.
And I thought I was like, okay, well, maybe it's just a record that missed the mark. And I listened, and I listened to it, I was like, this is just what?
That's
what
a good
are
point.
You doing?
That's a good point, and I think I actually feel the same way because I remember liking some of the stuff on there, and then kind of just not caring much about the other stuff on there.
Right.
But yeah, this time going back to some of the stuff, it's like just egregiously bad.
Right. It feels almost egregiously lazy in a sense.
Yeah.
Some of the lyrics and stuff, and But so moving on, Distance to Here. So I got into Distance to Here. So my mom went back to school, and she was in college during this time, and just because of the randomness of it all, around the time that this record came out, she, as part of one of her classes, went on a field trip, for lack of a better word, to a Buddhist temple in Houston, and she brought me. And so I got to go and hang out at this Buddhist temple for like several hours. We did a meditation session. We shared a meal. We got to talk to all these monks and like a round table kind of discussion. And I got to interact with this college professor about all, and then this album comes out around the same time that feels like it is trying to touch the same kind of thing that in my interpretation, because there's a lot of Buddhist influence. There's a lot of Eastern religion influence in the imagery and in the lyrics and whatnot. And so it became another sort of piece of me exploring Eastern thought in high school. I went and bought a bunch of Thich Nhat Hanh books, and I was reading all about Buddhism and shit. I was becoming Ed. And
so this was 99. So this was like
99.
10th, 11th grade ish.
Mm-hmm,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
At the same time that Slipknot is about to come out, and I'm going to get into that. But I was into all these things at the same time. Like that's something that is maybe not as easy to remember it that way, because it feels like, well, that had to definitely be two different people. No, I was into these things at the same time. So I think that's one of the reasons that it was this very, very special record